Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Token Podcast. I'm your host, sometimes referee, the friendly neighborhood, Zach Stat Pearson. And today, I'm joined by he who doesn't have clones, but is still 9,000 plus one. A one officer, 9,000.
If there could be clones of me, it would be a very interesting world indeed. How you doing?
And of course, we have she whose volume knows no bounds, because I'm always boosting it. A one, Desdemona.
Hello. I don't know why my mic doesn't like Discord, but hopefully today you'll be better.
I say again, it's not your microphone. And here comes a new challenger. He whose name is cool and friendly. He is a buddy, but commonly referred to as a Duff Man, except no substitutes. A one, Buddy Duffman.
Oh yeah, I am a meat popsicle. Kind of just happy to be here. You can find me online at twitter.com/Fineros. I don't really have much of a presence or personality outside of that.
Well, at least you got the self-deprecation part down. Fun fact about Mr. Duffman. We have no idea how the fuck we met because we can't remember.
Yeah, there's a plethora of some common interest there in like friends, but I was like, I know we've met, I just don't know how.
Speaking of conventions, well, for those of you who are interested, we occasionally do reviews. For the first time, I think possibly ever, there is going to be a convention stand-up show being recorded, or just a commissioned stand-up show at a comic convention by the great Patton Oswalt. Apparently it's not Peyton. I think Peyton like Peyton Manning, but apparently it's Patton, who will be at C2E2 April 11th and 12th doing a set. If you're interested in coming, feel free to bring $45 because that's how much a ticket is. And, I'm going to go because I want to say I at least did one stand-up review at some point in time. Because anybody can look at something on Netflix and say, oh, that was funny, that wasn't funny. But it's a different ball game when you are experiencing it and you're there specifically to critique in real time. That being said, no, I will not be recording anything. And no, I will not be showing any video or audio of it. I will be reviewing it posthumously with no added material and footage. So yeah, you're all welcome to come if you're interested. It'll be at McCormick Center. Tickets on sale now. All right, so with that being said, I'm going to get into this very, very unique situation that we have in relation to our topics at hand. So in case you missed the title, we will be discussing artificial intelligence, but we will be discussing them specifically down the lens of the entertainment production pipeline and the entertainment industry as a whole. That means the totality of Hollywood. That means interactive digital media in any form and anything else relating to it, audio and whatnot. Now, obviously, to do a full deep dive history would be painfully excessively long. And I don't want to hurt anybody like that, including myself. So what we will instead be doing is touching on some key moments, trying to get our questions answered that we have, 3 of them, by the way. And of course, just doing what a human can do to make sure people understand the ethical ramifications or lack thereof of all this material. So the first question is, or the first topic is, understanding what they are. I'll be trying to break down the different categories. I don't know if I'm going to cover them all, but I will be covering ones that are going to be important to today's discussion. How did we get here? As in, how do we get caught with our pants down? Metaphorically speaking, of course. And do you think there's an ethical way to utilize them on the commercial, non-industrial level in relation to entertainment and pop culture? With that being said, before we get started, does anyone have any questions or unique situations they want to bring up in relation to AI over the course of this video?
None here.
As with like in personal experiences. I can probably give some input regarding like AI in a content creator aspect, because I have a public-facing world-building page, and AI has been used in that community in various levels for a while, like before Midjourney and all that stuff was even on the markets. So
I just like how Midjourney ain't even that old of a company, and their name isn't even really in the AI game in the public conscience, but they've shook so much. They've disrupted so much.
mm-hmm.
All right, so yeah, before I get started, reminder, everyone, go to Push Your Talk. If you want to interject, go ahead and do it, but make sure it's a good one. All right, so the first thing that I want to break down for everyone is that there is no one unified artificial intelligence. Well, at least for right now. Also, assume this entire conversation has the asterisk attached to it of "for now" with everything we discuss. Okay, so artificial intelligence is exactly what it sounds like. It's a machine's ability to course correct, self-correct, or learn or gain information, not necessarily execute it, but gain information autonomously, meaning without the interference of a third party or a human being. The entirety of every functional nation that utilizes electricity, let alone computers, has to utilize AI, because we don't have enough manpower literally to do some things. So I'm not saying you all believe this, but let me crush the belief that society can properly function without the utilization of some AI. Yes, it can. However, it would regress the entirety of the nation to the point where we would essentially maybe go back to what would feel like the 40s. Now, I don't know if any of y'all even know somebody who remembers the 40s, but it wasn't really all that fun. Imagine you have an extremely curable condition, or you have a small minor injury that's slowly killing you, and you don't even know that you can get treatment for it or that it's completely curable because someone decided to paywall that information, and you don't even know where that person is, even if you're willing to pay it or your insurance company is willing to pay it. Imagine if your insurance company could just say they never got a phone call or a voicemail or a physical piece of mail stating that you need money for a procedure, even if they're obligated to cover it and your company called it. Listen, AI is involved in a lot of the infrastructure of functional machinery, okay? It just is, and it was well before this. Almost all of that you don't need to worry about, because it's doing its job, and it has manual human oversight, and it's not going to do anything that's going to destroy a nation or disrupt life in a traditional sense. And it's not at a point where it's going to it almost can't get to a point where it can take a job, because a lot of it doesn't have the ability to connect to other machinery or other devices. AI has multiple formats, but there is connected, interconnected, and disconnected iterations. That's where the disconnection, no pun intended, comes from. Much like with people are looking at AI as if they're all the same. It's basically a virtual version of that all Asians look alike bullshit. That's basically what's going on. And one of the things I hope to do with you guys, or whoever hears this, is try to get them to understand, I'm not telling you not to fear it. I'm telling you you're pointing your guns in the wrong direction. So, here's the thing. Large language models and generative artificial intelligence, combined or not, online or offline, are the ones that are a problem. Now, what makes them different? So, generative artificial intelligence is the format where it literally can create something by moving code, images, color frequencies, etc., on a visual display monitor. or it can also generate things in a text format or in a coding format. Here's why something like that is dangerous, or most dangerous. It's not because you can trick someone into believing someone they love is dead or get money out of someone. No, those would be nice things in comparison to what you can do. Now, I'm sure we've all heard the word dark web, or we know at least what it is. If you don't, let me know. This is not an echo chamber. Like I said, if you don't know something, there's no harm in asking. Now, here's the thing about the dark web. We all know good and bad hackers roam there. Okay? It's not a secret. But here's what a lot of people don't know, fail to realize, or completely forgot about. A lot of that stuff automatically comes with federal observation. And that's a good thing. Because the last thing you want, much like with the artificial intelligence, is for people to go unchecked with anything that they can do in relation to affecting computer systems. In the 90s, there was a person who I believe they either were giving a stern warning or a contract or just straight up thrown in jail because they were creating a self-replicating virus. It was going to be called the spider virus or something like that. Its job was to go through the entirety of the web and just replicate itself, not take data hostage, not destroy data, but replicate itself to the point where it fills up data. Essentially, they would literally be crashing the entire internet by overloading it with just random junk data or self-replication. This person got caught, or rather, they got asked very nicely with a knock on the door by the federal government to not do that shit. Now, imagine if there was an artificially intelligent computer where someone can just say the words, create a self-replicating version of yourself and put it in as many places as possible on a computer. Some 5-year-old does it as a joke. Or a skilled hacker does it just to see how long they can go or if they'll even get caught. The danger of generative AI is that it doesn't have to follow, and it is not legally mandated to follow any form of code of ethics. Okay? That's where that shit becomes scary. Yes, the ability to manipulate human beings into doing something, engineering itself to make it sound like someone else's voice. I don't even know how to properly categorize audio artificial intelligence because technically that's not like a thing per se. Audio is not artificially intelligent. The computer device is artificial intelligent that's emulating audio. So that's why that one in particular, we didn't really have a section for, because it kind of fits everywhere. So imagine my surprise when I start seeing artists get pissed about artificial intelligence via generative AI. It can't make fingers. They're fucking it up. They always put all these big corporations want to use instead of hiring somebody. And then they come out and say, no, it was just a test. We were just doing a test. It's like, bitch, you were doing a test to see if you can get away with it. You weren't doing a test to see if it worked. You were doing a test to see if you can get away with it. I'm not going to name no
Pretty much.
Yeah, I'm not going to name no big corporation names, but let's be honest. We all know it's practically anybody in the gaming industry. Like, fuck the bullshit. It's probably everybody. If a company is making hundreds of millions of billions of dollars, they've probably experimented with trying to get rid of artists via AI.
Not just gaming, but I know in the medical industry they've started implementing this in like billing and like approval for procedural shit.
Yeah, and like I said, it can go in negative. It can all go in negative in a positive way. The biggest problem with generative AI is the one I hinted at earlier, which is there is no formal legal code of ethics for the people who created these AIs to follow. So currently, that's why that one terrifies me. Because someone can call you tomorrow pretending to be your mother, or the doctor who's working on your mother saying that she got into a car crash. You call your mother on that phone. Once you pick up and talk to them, they figured out how to get to your phone through the IP address attached to your phone or anything else, maybe pinging off of cell towers, then reroute your calls to them, and they use a voice modifier to pretend to be your mom, and you figure out ways to send them money or just send them some shit, blah 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 blah. That alone is terrifying. The grifting capabilities go into the billions of dollars. Now, let's move to the next one. LLMs, large language models. Now this one, I have to explain a certain way. Like I actually had to go and look up actual terminology because my understanding of it and my ability to explain it are two different things. If that makes any sense. Like, you know how you can comprehend something but not properly explain it? That's how it is for me in large language models. So I'm gonna try to give y'all as close to a textbook definition as I can. Now, this is coming from NVIDIA, who, as you know, is deeply connected by default. Yes, is deeply connected by default to anything relating to graphics shown on a computer, but also artificial intelligence. Now, this is coming from directly from them via their blog. Large language models are among the most successful applications of transformer models. It is a transformer model. Okay. A transformer model is a neural network that learns context and then meaning by tracking relationships in sequential data, like words in a sentence. Like, if I know I'm an AI and I'm supposed to learn and speak English, and someone says, "Hola, señor," large language model goes, "Bitch, this ain't Spanish. We's American. We speak American around here." By the way, if there was ever an AI that sounded like a Larry the Cable Guy, I'm telling you right now, World War III will start.
It would be pretty funny, though.
Yeah, it is. I just gave myself a nightmare. Anyways, they work by learning from huge volumes of data, meaning you teach it things like you would a person. As its name suggests, central to an LLM is the size of the data set it's trained on, but the definition of large is growing along with AI. Now, large language models are typically trained on database large enough to include nearly everything that has been written on the internet over a large span of time. Really think about that. Here is a brand new person that we can literally feed every single piece of publicly available information that the internet has ever known, we'll say from like 2010 to yesterday. That alone is terrifying. Thanks to its computational efficiency in processing sequences in parallel, the transformer model architecture is the building block behind the largest, most powerful large language models. And you can this is also in there too. Large language models can also be customized for specific use cases, including through techniques like fine-tuning or prompt tuning, which is the process of feeding the model small bits of data to focus on to train it for a specific application. Meaning you could take an LLM and specifically put it in Unreal Engine and say, "Hey, your only job here is to learn how to make a video game." But also you can use it to read DNA, RNA. You can use it in retail situations. Legal teams can use it to help them find laws relating or law information relating to their cases. You can even be a financial advisor, which, mind you, you need to be certified for in most countries. Now,
You think they'll ever put an AI through a certification test and like?
I promise you they've already done it before we even heard the word LLM.
True enough.
Yeah, I think there's one that's supposed to be getting a medical certification right now.
Well, I'm not sure about cert, but I do remember seeing, I can't remember if it was one of the GPT lines or another one, but it supposedly passed the graduate readiness exam for a medical degree.
Yeah, that might be the same one we're talking about. And I know one of them passed the bar exam like 10 years ago. Notice how no one cared 10 years ago. So why do I think this one is equally, if not more dangerous than the other? Well, first and foremost, it's because this one can be customized to do great things, or it can be customized to be a great evil. And on top of it, it doesn't have to stay online. Really stop and think about that. You put the data into it. You can go to a library, stick a USB drive in there, download, I don't know, War and Peace, Do Robots Dream of Electric Sheep, and the actual Blade Runner book. And then you can tell it, then you make sure it understands English. You feed a dictionary into it. You literally say, here's the entirety of dictionary.com. And then you tell it, I want you to create a story that blends all three of the characters from these stories together to make a fan fiction, and make sure it is of a potential to get a high rating quality if read. And then change all the names of the main and supporting characters. You literally just wrote an entire fucking book that's a mix of War and Peace and cyberpunk aesthetics. And you literally didn't write a damn thing. What are even the legal ramifications for something like that? Does that even count as plagiarism? Oh yeah, and like I said, these can all be used on and offline. They could even network with one another. So that's one person. Now, let's say, I don't know, you don't like that your best friend over the summer started dating the boy you had a crush on in college. So you decide you're going to go into the library or some form of random student available computer, and you're going to generate via ChatGPT, LiveJournal, and all other types of AIs you can find that are free or, cost less than $10 a month. Because most of them cost less than $10 a month to get some type of access. And you're going to combine a generative, an LLM, and whatever else is out there with audio plugins. And you want to generate a bunch of images of your best friend being a hoe, cheating on people, and get it to automatically send out text messages and shit like that. And then eventually somebody with a noble heart goes and shows the guy you have a crush on. Now, how is that girl going to prove her innocence? Exactly. Furthermore, technically, almost no crime has been broken. No law has been broken. Indirect harassment is hard to charge somebody for. You could count it as slander. Here's the problem, and here's where you can counter it in court. Well, she can say these generated images of her sucking a bunch of dudes' dicks or whatever is art. She made sexual graphical art. Then you have to worry about her passing the Miller's test. But here's the problem. It kind of doesn't matter if she passed the Miller's test or not. Now a whole entire jury in a court system had to see generated images of you that look real, of you butt-ass naked, getting railed by 3-4 dudes. Now there's a psychological element of that. So now we get to the point where it goes into arbitration and settling out of court. And we all know how that shit works. When people get caught, when people settle out of court, one of two things are possible. Number one, somebody's guilty and they know they're guilty, but they don't want the public to know that they're guilty. Number two, somebody is dead wrong and they want to try to contractually obligate the person that they wrong to fucking not mention they fucked up. So you see, both of those options are basically the same thing. Now here's where it gets worse. We're still one of the only modern countries that deal with these types of artificial intelligence that have no ethic, legal, or laws that are being drafted on the federal level, let alone the state level, for any of this. Is that not the most terrifying shit? I can ruin your whole entire reputation and, by extension, your life, and possibly affect your ability to work, etc., etc. And all I did was pay $10. Listen, these artificial intelligence commercial AIs, they go two directions, man. People are either using them to do some of the most boring, basic, mundane shit and maybe a comical joke or two, like I was doing with that Andrew Tate AI where we basically embarrassed the shit out of him. God, that was so fun to do. And then there's a whole nother group who they shouldn't be allowed to use it because on some level AI should be regulated like guns. That being said, yes, I know what country we live in. So yeah. That's the issue, and that's what we're primarily going to be navigating today. I'm not going to even say we got solutions to this shit. So moving into section 2, how we got here. Well, it's actually a pretty short journey. Despite the evolution and revolution of artificial intelligence being incorporated into infrastructure relating to, we did not get to a point where it was lethal and dangerous, or projected to become lethal and dangerous, until the Reagan administration. Of all the things Reagan can be guilty for, besides being a racist piece of shit, one of the things that he was a little bit ahead of his time on was artificial intelligence. So, for those who don't know, I can't remember the name of the movie. If someone can find it, let me know. There was a movie that came out a good 20, maybe 40 years ago. Now, in this movie, it was essentially someone was trying to pit America and Russia against each other in a war. So they hacked the entirety of the federal system. And they made a bunch of people believe that there were missiles being fired, nuclear missiles from Russia or other places, to North America. And some little kid hacker knew that this plot was happening, or somebody, and he was trying to tell people until they started listening to him. But the problem is, no matter how many people listen to you, doesn't matter if the next guy doesn't. And some American system, self-defense warning system, saw that there were missiles heading to us, and they said that they were nuclear, radioactive, and they were coming from the direction of where Russia would be. And the kids lose this mind. It's a fake. Don't launch it, because everyone knows that America made an open acknowledgement, I believe in the 50s or the 60s, about their approach to nuclear weaponry. We are using the MAD system. Now, MAD stands for mutually assured destruction, meaning if you fire a nuke, we're going to see it coming. We're just going to throw everything at you because we know that's the only way we can get you back. So, mutually assured destruction.
You talked about War Games, the I think 1985 movie starring Matthew Broderick.
Yes, War Games. So I believe at this point Reagan is out of office, or nearing coming out of office, and Reagan started talking to people within Department of Defense and various other entities, and he basically asked, "Is it possible that something like this could happen?" And the answer was unequivocal yes. Most of you may know, almost every system before the 70s has no security and is extremely vulnerable. However, we're not in the 70s anymore. Now, speed forward to, we'll say 2004, 2005. The usage of artificial intelligence in and outside of the government has dramatically exploded because of the utilization for, at the time, engineers and people relating to fields of that nature, like I stated earlier, to utilize it to help and aid with construction, engineering, or management of important infrastructural systems like the stoplight system for driving, the power grid, as well as basic state and federal level communication. Okay? There's some form of coding and programming, and there's some form of AI or code that is meant to specifically help and aid with something. But a lot of these are limited to only work in a set space. Think of it almost like a video game. Your PlayStation 5 disc ain't gonna work in your PC. Your PlayStation 5 disc is gonna work in your PlayStation 5. That's it. We're not there anymore. Now, because of a company starting with, not saying that they're alone responsible, starting with LiveJournal, and then investments in the Chat GPT, then the commercial explosion of the term generative AI, then companies being able to gross billions of dollars just by stating that they're engineering a new form of artificial intelligence or backing someone who's got their own large model artificial intelligence, and the occasionally promotable but rarely used fake human beings that can speak fluent English and hold conversations that are extremely intelligent, just randomly showing up in pop culture zeitgeist, including the one that got stolen and no one knows where it went. Originally, that one was the smartest one. Yeah, ain't that shit creepy? And quite literally, we are now at a point where for, I believe, under $20 a month, anybody with a computer and internet can use an AI or try to get it to learn to do things for them by utilizing its internet connection. So now these AIs are primarily online instead of primarily offline, or in a closed network. Now, a closed network is technically online, but you want to think about it in the form of it's like two TVs in a house. You got one TV in the living room, you got one TV in the back. They're not connected, but they're in the same location. To being able to access essentially the entire wealth of human knowledge that's publicly available. That puts us at around 2015. 2015 is when companies like this started receiving, it wasn't hidden, but it wasn't, unless you're following tech magazines and stuff of that nature, it was like a blurb at best, started receiving funding in excess of 8 figures to try to get things done. But as usual...
8 figures? Damn.
Bro, what was it? Google was trying to win some type of a contract, or was sending out a contract for an AI to help it with Google as a whole. And one company fucked up their AI in one way, shape, or form, and the other person that was right behind them had no way of won the contract, and they got something like, I think, 400 million. Can't remember. I absorbed a lot of information over the course of the 5-6 days we've been planning this episode. So now we're starting to see the same thing that always happens in business when there's any form of a gold rush. Somebody did something that puts them at the top of a field, or can get them to the top of a field, or they're the most known name in that field. Now everybody either wants to get on board, or everyone else wants to be the one who dethrones them and gets equal, if not superior, amounts of money. That's where we are right now. In fact, if memory serves, the guy who made ChatGPT or LiveJournal, which there's only one documentary where he's featured, he's completely left the company. Now, that puts us into section 3, where we get a little bit more interactive. Do you think there is an ethical way to utilize these AIs on the commercial, non-industrial level? And for the record, I technically mean in the United States relating to the world of entertainment and pop culture. And I'm going to start with you, officer.
Alright. I think there is that if they were to go and put in specific regulations and limitations of and laws that you cannot use AI to do this, and this, then I believe we could get into a much safer and more controlled environment. As it is right now, there are seemingly no brakes and no road barriers to stop this vehicle from zooming off however fast it wants and into whatever it wants. And I don't think any of us want it to result in a very messy accident. So it's just a matter of figuring out, working with those who make AI and getting an understanding of how the AI works so that they can figure out how they can put in stopgaps. To go, all right, if it goes to this sort of thing, then no, initiate, a emergency stopgap, maybe like someone overseeing the AI does some sort of command, like admin command to, do a force stop. God, it almost feels like describing some sort of wizard shit and cyberpunk stuff. but that is the situation we're in right now, is that the AI, it will respond to commands, and so long as that stays as, you know, the standard, I think it should be okay. If there's ever an AI that is allowed to just continue doing whatever without any oversight or commands, we're going to be in a huge heap of trouble. Not quite, you know, Terminator level trouble, but it could escalate there. Maybe. And that's my big concern. Just work together with the experts, figure out what regulations can be put in place, and put them in place. I know it's a hard ask to ask Congress to pass laws, but they're going to have to. Otherwise, their bottom line is going to be hit. But that's pretty much it for me, is there needs to be regulations and laws, and we need to work with the experts to figure out how to get that put in place. But, well, it's a big ask for any of this in the current mess of a system we're in. But that's pretty much my say on it. I feel others will probably have more say, as I'm not an artist, so I don't really have that sort of understanding of the situation. I have friends who are artists who explain to me how it is that they view it, but I'm not gonna put words in their mouth. I would rather let them speak for themselves. But I think that's pretty much all I have to say on the matter.
And that's my go.
Yep.
Yeah. Sorry, you cut off again at the end. I assume that was what you meant. Yeah, I kind of find myself Miyazaki on like AI, where it's like I don't like it. I'm really kind of disgusted by some of the things that people produced with it, but at the point we're at now, like with the explosion in the last 3 years of AI and all these companies that are using it, and just all these generative AI platforms that are out there. It was recently that I'm trying to remember, DeepSea or whatever it is from China that came out that is like a smaller package and platform than some of the competing stuff over here in the States, like OpenAI and ChatGPT. It's like you can't put the genie back in the bottle. I really wish we could, and unfortunately, I don't think our current executive branch and our legislature are really interested in trying to be proactive and preventative about damages that could arise from use and misuse of AI stuff right now. So it's not going to be anytime soon for these having reined in, and we can actually have sort of laws in place to try to govern and protect users from being like have their likenesses malappropriated and used in AI, and just like kind of prevent people from being harmed by it. I know we've had some judicial rulings. You can't copyright AI generated material, which is promising, but it's not really going to stop people from, and you already can see this in Amazon storefront, where like there's a lot of AI generated books that are out there that are just bad. It's like soulless art, for lack of a better term for it. And it's like a lot of these people that put it out, they don't really care about the quality of what's created. They're just trying to put out enough stuff to appease masses and try to get people interested in their catalogs, but it's like, I'm trying to figure out how to articulate it. There is like no heart, no soul in a lot of the AI derived work they see, which is why, I hate it. And I know a lot of people just like kind of get creeped out by the uncanny valley you get with a lot of the AI artwork. I think that's all I have to say about that.
If I can interject with one little thing before I head out, is there's always a very distinct look to the human faces generated by AI. Is there like a specific artist it learned that from or something? It's like very distinctive. You look at it and you know that's it. That was AI.
It's sort of like a law of averages of the data sets it's got in. And I know a lot of like the AI art has a sort of almost anime look or quality to some of the faces it does, where it's not photorealistic. But as you get refinement of models and you've got other things going on, you'll have eventually AI art that is of a specific like style of a famous, hopefully dead artist that can be mass produced by people without having that uncanny valley appearance. Hopefully that's a few years off, but it's not really.
I think I just thought of one possible artist that the AI could have been pulling from to make that very distinctive look to it. And I'm 99.9% certain that this artist doesn't use AI, but I feel like, should I mention the name? That was a question to you, Zach. I think it's likely that the AIs might have gotten some inspiration from the artist Sakumi-chan. Because if you look at, the glossy look of her characters, you can see many of the AI kind of replicate that with their images and the like. So I can't help but wonder, was that one of the big sources that created what we know now as the distinct AI look? Well, to my understanding, they were learning by looking at existing art, and that might be some of the art that had a big influence on it. Gotcha. Okay, I was just speculating was all. I must be going for now, though. Farewell.
Say a lot. Most of the art that I looked at, it's probably also digital art versus, physical art. And even when you take because someone who makes a lot of like physical art. Even when you take photos of it, you can take a really high resolution photo and grab a lot of detail. But if you do that, it actually can come across kind of weird, because I had someone who took professional Photoshop photos of paintings that I did like years ago, and it like when you look at a painting in person, you just see like the top layer, but if you take a professional photo with a camera, you can actually get like the paint layer and then like the canvas layer underneath that your eye doesn't really pick up in person, but like a camera will. So then AI is either going to just look at a bunch of art that was made digitally and is not going to have the kind of detail, unless they're spending a lot of time on very expensive brushes, but even then it's probably not going to have the kind of detail that an in-person art has. And also photographs are people are going to have a different kind of detail versus digital art that someone has made online. And if it's professional art that's been airbrushed and etc., it's not going to have the same detail as just a picture without any filters and professional art. So I'm sure that also has a big part of like why AI texture isn't the same. Also with CGI, whenever they're adding a lot of texture, it takes a lot more computer resources versus simpler or less detailed texture layers. And AI already consumes a massive amount of resources as it is. So creating AI that's also going to create that kind of level of texture is going to just consume even more resources. And at the end of the day, a lot of these companies are, they're trying to make money. If it's like, a service that's letting people pay to use it. So they're going to provide a level that their people are willing to pay for, but also gives them a profit, which means they're going to limit the amount of resources they're dumping into this, because it's already a very resource-heavy media, or not media, resource-heavy tool. But to the question of an ethical way to use it, like the way it is right now, I'm sorry? Right. I would say if you're making money off of it, then and you're using any of these public models, then no, because anything you use is taken from people without their permission, whether it's, it's read a bunch of online novels that I've found. They're not only looking at public or novels that don't have copyrights anymore, it's looking at everything. Like you can tell AI to give you a chapter of Game of Thrones, like R.R. Martin's book, and it will do it because it's read all of his books, even though George R.R. Martin definitely didn't give them permission, since he's in a lawsuit with a bunch of other people that's suing OpenAI. So there's anything you do, you're violating some kind of copyright law if you're using any of these generative models that have scoured information without any limits or checks. So in that case, no. And then if you care about the environmental impact, then no. Even there's one AI called Bloom, BLOOM. They've tried to make a more eco-friendly AI, but even that one, for them to generate, give the AI the mission to learn what it needed to learn to be able to function, it still consumed massive amounts of energy. And that was just the startup. That's not even it continuing to run. So, if there was an AI model that only consumed media or content that it was given permission by the owners of the content to consume, it was completely transparent. If you posted anything from that AI, like images, you kind of already do that with text, but like it would have some kind of something on the image that's generated by XAI, and something that a person can't easily take away from that transparency, then maybe. Watermark, right? Yes. Then maybe, but I don't think that even exists at the moment. So Adobe tried to come up with a. They claim that they have a more ethical AI. That's why I said claim, but. And they were, because I looked through, like I said earlier, I have a World Anvil site, and I was looking at different options. Because when Midjourney came out, it was very popular amongst users there because people are creating Anvil pages with it. Some World Anvil sites have like hundreds of pages, and they're writers who maybe are not also artists, and they can't afford to pay for 100 pieces of art for their thing. And so, I mean, AI has definitely popped up a lot on that site. I was just looking at random options out there after, Midjourney started getting everyone started yelling at it. But, so originally Adobe, they had the watermark on all of their AI, but they've already taken all of that off. So they're not even staying transparent anymore. And they claim to only use stock images, but I don't know. But even some stock images are copyrighted, so that wouldn't even be, not breaking copyright rules. So
yeah, about the only ethical way I can think of training a model is by it being your output that you train it on.
But I would say for that answer is right now, no, an ethical AI does not exist, especially on a commercial level. And if you're trying to make money off of that thing, then you shouldn't use any form of AI. Especially not for images, and you shouldn't have AI write your stories or whatever, because it's stealing other people's work to write your story.
Okay, so if I'm counting correctly, we got 2 no's and a yes under certain circumstances. All right, so yeah, my turn. Okay, so I'm gonna just come out and say it. Half the reason people caring about the AI shit is because artists collectively, no pun intended, got hella pissed. That's like the main reason. This shit is not new. We've all seen at one point in time some article or some news report in the past 20, 30 years about artificial intelligence, and we've seen a bunch of sci-fi shit that features artificial intelligence. HAL 9000 was not a work of fiction. It was a prediction, for those of you who know that reference. But look, we're talking about the world of entertainment, where hypocrites walk hand in hand with the noble elites, where the biggest perpetrators to destroy jobs won't even lose an ounce of sleep over it. So I'm gonna just start on the small. I'm gonna just start on this the smallest way I know how. First and foremost, is there a way to use commercial grade AIs in entertainment ethically? Yes. Do I think that's going to happen in the United States of America? Well, first off, it hasn't happened now, and I don't think it's going to happen for at least at a bare minimum, 3 administrations. Take that how you will. And I won't bore you with the long version. We all know what I'm about to say for the most part. Look, giant corporations will do anything to save money because they look at saving money as making money. Those are not the same things. But unfortunately, that's how late stage capitalists think in general. So, Bob Iger has stated numerous times shit that makes unions basically want to beat the living shit out of them. Okay? It's not a secret. Bob Iger has never respected the concept of a union. We all know this. The strikes that have been directly and indirectly caused by holdouts in the past like 5-6 years have had a direct effect on my career. So to say that I have no dog in the fight would be a disingenuous lie. But I'm also a realist. However, I acknowledge I'm about to sound like a pessimist. Look, 70 to 80% of the artists who are complaining are hypocrites. A vast majority are hypocrites. Okay? Because most of the people you'll ever meet who want to make profit just off of doing their art, it's not from generating unique illustrations for a third party. We have an entire almost 2 generations of artists who eat, shit, and sleep. Let me draw something that looks cool from someone else's character and artwork, get attention, then go sell it online. Quick reminder, that shit's not actually legal. It was never legal. Okay, listen, when you have the rights and the licensing to characters or a property, you have the rights to that character and the property, whether it's intellectual property or any other form. So let's say, Duffman, you created the entire concept of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, right? Now, let's say Dez is a fan of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but Dez decides that she wants to draw all of them and put them on t-shirts, put them on print fabric, put them on canvas, and go to conventions nationwide and sell them to the point where she becomes one of the most popular artists of TMNT. And she can live off of it comfortably or pay rent. Technically, and I use that term loosely, shit's not legal. When you take a property, virtual, artistic, physical, you reproduce and duplicate it for profit and to sell, you literally are committing a low-grade, low-scale crime. That is property rights. I believe it's called property rights infringement or something. I can't remember. But basically, since it's not MTO, made to order, or made on commission, direct one-to-one sell, anybody can come after you at any point in time with a cease and desist or just sue you. Now, a lot of people remember the incident, the many incidents that always make Post Malone look like a noble motherfucker. But remember when somebody was selling Post Malone themed artwork on t-shirts, fabric bags, and a tumbler. But primarily the tumbler was her biggest seller. She made about $6 or $7 grand and she was being sued for some astronomical figure until Post Malone said, they're only supposed to go after people who are making bigger amounts of money. This is a mistake. Don't worry about it. You're fine. He said that to the fan. But you see the issue there, right? Anytime you're at a convention, anything you sell that has any characters, barring few exceptions, like you got permission to draw cover art for Marvel and you want to take that same art and put it in a poster or sell it with a signature, put it on a bag, blah, 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 blah. You had shared ownership in that instance. But if you go and say, draw Spider-Man, say the official Spider-Man or Marvel's official Spider-Man, some other bullshit, you put it on some shoes, you put it on teacups, you put it on hats, and you're selling your shit and you're trying to get it into department stores and you're selling it at conventions, yeah, people are allowed to defend their rights and property assets. Now, a lot of them don't because they know that it's bad for publicity depending on the circumstance. But that's not going to stop a lot of foreign companies because I'm going to tell you right now, we all know Nintendo, Disney, and Japan in general, they don't play about them licensing shits. I don't know if y'all remember this, but when we were young, Disney went through every single fucking state and started threatening lawsuits to every single daycare that utilized their characters in an artistic way in their windows. They weren't called Disney's daycares, but they were putting pictures of Disney characters in the window which is a common practice at daycare facilities in the 90s and going into the early 2000s. They did it because their characters were being used for the purposes of generating profit and interest for a company without permission or consent. They essentially had no licensing rights to do that. What the fuck makes you think that don't apply to Joe Schmo at C2E2, New York Comic Con, San Diego Comic Con? No, boo-boo. Listen, you can get permission to get licensing rights. You can negotiate a licensing deal, but almost nobody does it. And now here come those same people being mad that artificial intelligence generated AI is being utilized, not necessarily for profit by everyone, but is being used in general. Sometimes people just do it to see if it can generate an image of themselves. And people are being lambasted as if they manually went in to a union, shot everyone up in the union, and said, none of you artists can organize ever again. So like I said, this is a twofold problem. The people on one side are a whole ass problem, and the people on the other side are acting like they're innocent. There is no innocence in this situation whatsoever. There is no one who is innocent. Okay? The only time we got close to innocent people are those people who draw original artworks. They put it online because this is the only way they can get attention and notoriety, because it's hard to sell art in general, especially commercially. And then here comes DeviantArt not even asking and says, oh, we sold all your shit off. Also on Facebook, Instagram, and all these other social media platforms, without even asking you. Oh, but we're going to ask you after we've done it and made the money. And also, even though they told us they did it, no one is getting any of the money from that sale. They looked at it as no different from when these big companies sell your data without your permission or consent. Mind you, we didn't even start getting laws about that till the government itself started complaining about it. And it really didn't even blow up until, who was the Asian dude that was running for president? Forgot his name. Andrew Yang. Until Andrew Yang showed up and he made it one of his major talking points. Our data is valued almost the equivalent of gold and or oil, and we get nothing from it, and there's not even a direct pipeline to get people to not sell it in general. We need to fix that. But guess what? It's been happening for 50 years at that point or more. Literally the entirety of Andrew Yang's life. So I will tell you that no one is innocent. Everyone's hands are equally bloody, barring very few exceptions. Like people who do abstract art, people who do physical chiseled art and shit, completely innocent. But nah, you drew fucking Sonic the Hedgehog, doing a cool pose or fighting Goku, and Shadow the Hedgehog fighting Vegeta, but then you go to a convention and you sell it for the next 10 or 15 years for the rest of your life, and it's online, you getting commission off that and shit? No. It was not a one-to-one commission. Someone commissioned you to draw it. So by default, you can catch some legal hell for it. But because so many other people around you do it, and now here you are coming in and complaining about theft of your artwork when half of the people complaining weren't drawing original characters. They were drawing someone else's shit. I'm not saying that they're right. I'm saying everybody's wrong, and we need to stop and we need to unify so we can go at this problem collectively, which means that there's going to need to be some actual laws that get enforced at conventions or in general. Okay? Because the shit, you can't have it both ways. So I guess to summarize my point, I do not currently think at this point in time there's a ethical way to use artificially generated imagery, but there is a ethical way to use large language models or, small language models. Quick reminder, artificially intelligence or artificially generated does not necessarily mean something negative. You could have an artificial intelligence that generates stage parameters. That's how we get those computer generated stages, and artificial intelligence does it. There have been dozens of games I've played in my life where the stages are literally randomized based on what an artificial intelligence does. That creates more playability than a human being can. Because first off, You have to pay someone to make those stages. They would have to learn to code it. They'd have to take built-in elements and assets that someone else already made and textures and make sure they put them together manually, one by one by one by one. Ain't nobody got time for that. Literally. XCOM 2 is one of the biggest examples. One of the biggest problems, and it wasn't even a problem that they saw with XCOM 1, a real-time strategy game, was that people would learn the maps, and over time they could master the maps to where they essentially have less of a threat on any difficulty level, just because that map is mastered. So how do you fix that problem? Your player is overcoming a difficulty at an accelerated rate. Well, that's easy. You make the maps have a set parameter to infinitely regenerate, and that's what they did for XCOM 2. So literally, on the lowest difficulty level, we could play the same stages side by side and have completely different methodologies. However, now let's apply that to 3D modeling and textures and all that other stuff. Boy, you basically just said, hey, let me take someone's job. Really stop thinking about that. If the union hadn't come in clutch, I think it was 2 years ago, maybe 3.5. How many people would legitimately be forced to take significantly less, and also, on top of taking significantly less, essentially be forced to work insane hours, not even to do their job, but to help an AI do their job better? You see how different that is? You got an AI for video games that's helping with stages and enemy difficulty, because enemy AI is always important. You can't manually do that shit. And then in the same breath, if you go on the artistic side, you can generate a texture, which I think would be kind of cool, because if you generate a texture, you never have to worry about someone trying to claim ownership of it. You don't have to steal it. You just literally made a texture from scratch. Your computer already generates those textures anyway. Pixar is a texture. It's not just a company. It's the name of a texture. And you make a 3D model? Well, nope, I don't want to pay no one to do that no more. I'm going to have somebody else pay them less to refine this pre-made model I already got. Because I told an AI, make a woman who appears to be under 200 pounds, 6 foot, blah, 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 blah. And then you give to somebody else to refine that. Now, they can't even charge as much. See how that shit goes? There's never not a cycle or a loop where the AI is beneficial and then can turn around and hurt you. And these large corporations, they don't care about if it benefits you. We all know that. If they're an American company, they care about how can they extort business and save money and generate money. So I'm going to just say that there is a way to ethically use it in entertainment, but I'm not stupid. I'm going to tell you that almost nobody will fucking do it, barring few exceptions. Programmers and coders, yeah. Anybody else, I wouldn't trust them. Like I said, this needs to be treated like a fucking gun. Gun ownership. But also, again, we live in America, and we know we got the shittiest gun ownership laws that have pretty much ever existed. We make laws against even doing research against it. That's not a joke. It is literally a felony to investigate and do analytical research, for the government to do investigative and analytical research into firearms and the Second Amendment as of, I think, 2010 or 2011. It's been a while for me since I looked into it. So yeah, I'd like to say we could end this on a more positive note, but we fucking can't. This is a dangerous situation, and we have no form of federal level ethics committee issuing out any information, because right now their main goal is how many billionaires can we serve? And the people who aren't, they can say, well, we got bigger things to worry about, like the entire concept of Trump and Elon. But they're almost not wrong. This is a big ass problem, and it's only going to get bigger, like a dam with a leak. But this is America. We got a lot of leaky dams we need to plug. So I get it. I honestly get it. Also, let's keep in mind, we don't necessarily have a lot of stupid people in the government. Well, we do now. We also have a lot of people who don't care that they're technologically illiterate and have low fucking comprehension. We have a hotline for scientists and mechanical engineers to explain shit to the federal government employees because they keep trying to make rules and occasionally make rules that don't make sense relating to shit they don't understand. And I think they just ended that when Trump got in office the first time. We've had people who don't own fucking cell phones and have never owned a cell phone holding congressional and Senate seats. Still do. And let's not forget, what was it, 2 years ago, we found out that we had a missing person with dementia who was like the second or third highest person in charge of all of the nation's money. They had been committed into like a old folks dementia institution and nobody fucking knew it. We have a lot of fucking problems right now. So yeah, I hate to say it, that's where we are.
We're going to continue the fine American tradition of kicking the can further down the road to have somebody else deal with the problem when it becomes a bigger issue.
Yes, The Simpsons prediction is turning out to be exactly what it always is, accurate.